You know what, Ben? I absolutely hate people that are on Facebook and Instagram that are fake. Do you see that often?
I see it way too often. You know, it's like people are constantly on vacation or something, or just living this dream fantasy life where everything's perfect, and just like, it's just so fake.
It's so fake, and it's not true, and it's Facebook fake. Do you guys hate that as listeners? We do too, and that is one of the reasons why we started Threads podcast, Life Unfiltered.
We're all about three main things: faith, mental health, and uncomfortable conversations. In short, it's the stuff you don't really see on social media.
Our conversations on Threads are going to be real, open, and raw. They might make you feel a little uncomfortable.
And that's what Threads is all about. We choose to focus on the threads that tie humanity together.
If this sounds interesting to you, you can find us on all the platforms, like everyone says, but we really want you to go to threadspodcast.com.
Hello, I am Chris Gazdick, a mental health and substance abuse therapist. Still have that book out there, Re-Understanding Emotions and Becoming Your Best Self. I am back on track with that for anyone who's listening thinking, what he's talking about. Like, I say rediscovering, and they changed the title, Courtney, and it just forever it locked in. And it came back, I guess, maybe with you being here from
Maybe
Morgan James. So anyway, this is Through a Therapist's Eyes, where you get personal insights directly from a therapist in your own home and in your car. We look for you to contact us, interact with us at contact@throughatherapist'seyes.com, which, by the way, throughatherapist'seyes.com is a great place to catch the show. We got a lot of shows out. We're at 162.
that's amazing.
Got a category button that you can type in there. Everything about substance abuse, it comes right up. Neil's got the website dialed in for that. Everything about marriage comes right up, and we've got a lot of great content out there for you. So use the website as the best way to check us out and to kind of get dialed into the things that you're most interested in. And thank you. We are an international podcast, and we keep on picking up. Boy, I think I said before, somebody in China, man, they're killing it.
That's
So
great.
It's neat, you know. It's,
Yeah.
I still get amazed with podcasting. Like, you can do this, and it's literally, hopefully helpful, but it's literally around the world, right? Like, that's cool. So we thank you internationally and nationally for making us what we are. This is the human emotional experience, and we do endeavor to figure this out together. I don't think I said that this is not delivery of therapy services in any way.
You should say that.
Very important. So, are you prepared?
Yes.
How
I
did
am
you get prepared when you didn't even know?
I am always prepared. I can talk anything at any time. It may not make sense, it may not be true, but I can talk.
Good point. Good point.
No.
So I'm excited about this one for a different reason than you might think, Courtney, because I think a couple shows ago I had mentioned to you, you know, that we hopefully will touch on the emotion-focused therapy model, which people have heard me talk a lot about.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have an opportunity to do that today because it just matches with dating and the topic. What do I call it? New dating patterns, move in together or wait.
That's a question right
It
there.
is a question right there. And there's a lot of people asking that question in
Yeah.
the way that I've found, you know, people living and, you know, dealing with these, you know, dealing with this thing of forever relationship, right? It's a huge deal. So we really need to understand and backtrack, though, about the patterns of relationship and what EFT is. So I refer my clients a lot of times, both when I'm working individually and when I'm working maritally with them. Episode 11, and then it's like one of the only shows we redid the content for on episode 101,
Okay.
right? We just reconstituted the same content. The first time in like 140 episodes
Wow.
we did that, right?
Yeah, that's
Well,
impressive.
actually, I guess at that time it was 101 episodes.
There you go.
Doing my math right. Think about that. But the reason why we did that is because we just knew what we were doing a little bit better, and it's such a valuable show. And honestly, somebody told me they listened to 11 and then 101, and that review really helped them to get engrossed into something that has transformationalized the way that I do therapy with people.
Wow.
That's a big statement, I know, but
Yeah.
But I didn't find it until about 7-8 years ago, and I was kind of like, wow. So here's what it did in my mind. I would always look at relationships and the patterns in relationships and try to figure out basically like which ones we want to keep, which ones we want to lose altogether, and which ones we just need to tweak. And so I would get into like, love languages, and I'd actually get that whiteboard out over there and draw out, communication patterns and stuff. What are you laughing about?
The love languages.
Yeah.
Okay, so my husband and I, we've been married for almost 23 years.
Yeah.
So this dating topic will be interesting to me because it's been so long since I've been there. But through the course of our 23 years, we've gone through the love languages, the 5 love languages.
Yeah.
Twice.
Right.
Both times resulted in fights.
Oh. That's good.
So yeah, let's move on.
Well, this is Well,
No.
The reason this is so cool because those things are good. Communication patterns and learning how to be a good active listener and understanding your love language. It's good material. But to me, it misses the point.
Yeah.
Right? It totally misses the point.
I think for us, and I don't want to get off track here, but for us, we were too busy looking at what the other person wasn't doing instead of looking at what we should be doing. So that was our mistake. Don't make that mistake.
There's a big point there. And you know what? That's funny. I'm glad you said that because that probably happens with EFT as well. So I got gnats in my office. That's what you see. Like, I'm sorry, the cameras. Gosh, it's terrible, man. I got these plants up there and they bring the gnats in here. It's terrible. But I do digress. That was definitely a digression.
Yeah, yours more than mine. You win.
Yay. So the patterns are important, but this guy, John Gottman, right? So let me launch into it. So because we need to understand the relationship patterns so that we understand the boundaries and how they go, and so that we can get down into the nitty-gritty of a major decision that people are making when they're dating about whether we move in before marriage or not. It's a fundamental question that I deal with in therapy. And we're going to talk also, by the way, about dating behavior kind of as well, because it's all part of that, family and kids and dating and living together and getting married. It's all wrapped up, together. So we're going to kind of contend with all of that, with the primary point being, do you move in or not? So Gottman identified by taking thousands of people and put them in the love lab. And he just observed them talking, right? So you've never heard of this before,
No,
right?
I haven't.
Yeah, this is fresh to you. This is good. So what he did is he just observed them talking. That's it. He wired them up, blood pressure, tear ducts, sweaty palms, heart rate, the whole 9 yards, and just saw what happens when people, go at it and converse, talk, chat.
Were they strangers or were
No,
they?
they're couples.
They're
Yeah,
couples.
couples.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. And what he found is that people land on one of very two specific insecurity states. And he identified abandonment as one of those, okay, and engulfment as the other.
Okay.
So when you were on our show, we talked about this then.
A little bit.
A
Yep.
little bit.
Yep.
Okay. So engulfment's a weird insecurity. You're engulfed by flames. You're engulfed by water. You're afraid of being overrun by somebody, right? So what happened? Abandonment people generally know what that is. So what happens is these abandonment people, which I am in that camp. I tell people pretty clearly. I've learned that and know that. We will want to gain emotional safety through getting close, and that closeness quells our anxieties and insecurity, and we feel better. So we'll express and connect and want to talk and talk and talk and talk and talk.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I know.
That's me too.
Okay. And engulfment people will want the same thing. They will want emotional safety in connections and attachments with people, especially your spouse. But this extends to other attachments. It's just the closest attachment, the louder the behavior. Engulfment people will withdraw, right? They will shut down and build up walls because they're gaining that emotional safety by creating space, right? And when I heard all of this, I was like, wow, like that's the way relationships operate. Those are the foundational structures that are at play. And in a close relationship, you got three options. Two engulfment people get together, right? Yeah.
Quiet nights.
Quiet nights. Yeah, that needs to be a song. There's not a lot going on.
Yeah.
It's really, really just you're in your own world, the other person's in their own world, they feel uncomfortable, they connect, they talk, they may have dinner together, whatever, but I do my thing, you do your thing, and we're good. And that can work. Don't think that's bad, but it is rare. The other is two abandonment people, right? Boy, there's a lot going on. Can you imagine talking all the time? Talking, the other person's talking. It's a love fest when it's good, but man, there's
conflict,
a lot of conflict. We used to call that high conflict relationships. We actually had a term for that, but I think Gottman kind of figured out what's going on, and like now we get it. That's an abandonment. That's a pursue pattern.
Gotcha.
Right?
Makes sense.
So an overwhelming majority of the time, you have one person from abandonment, one person from engulfment, and you can see what happens, right? One person is wanting to jump in and talk about it because we have to fix the problem right now.
And the other needs time to process and think and feel and then learn to communicate it.
And it takes forever.
Days, weeks, years.
Yes. Things don't get said, things don't get dealt with because they're withdrawing. And now, a lot of people will say, well, I do both. And we all do both.
Right.
First of all, the big point there is we kind of do both, but when you're triggered, you're in your space. And it ain't a happy space. This is incredibly painful, very, very scary, terrifying realities that you get into when you're really dealing with abandonment and when you're really dealing with engulfment. So when things get triggered or when you have those arguments, as you say, you kind of do your thing. And unfortunately, Courtney, you and I are probably the ones running them down to talk about it. Which, by the way, you're a girl, right?
Yes, I am.
Okay. I'm a boy.
Yes.
And we both have those tendencies.
Right.
We have a mistake in thinking, and this is going to be very important later on in our conversation, so make a mental note. We make a mistake in thinking the guy should be in engulfment.
Yeah.
Don't want to talk about feelings. Don't want to talk about emotions. Don't want to be all lovey and whatever. Like, can we not just live? Well, women want their she shed. You ever hear of a she shed?
Oh, yeah.
Right?
I love the commercial where the she shed is burning down.
Right. Well, I got a man cave, believe me. I love my building. Matter of fact, I think I need to be away from the world today, and I am going into my building, and I am going to watch the Cleveland Browns get destroyed. Because I don't like the Browns. I don't want to watch a football game. But you know what I'd love to have? I'd love to have her hanging out in my man cave.
You want it all.
I would love. Is that too much to ask? No, Lisa probably won't want to go to the building and watch a football game tonight, and that's okay, right? But you got to understand the way these patterns work that are not gender oriented, that are very profound and highly cyclical over and over and over again throughout the course of a relationship. Right?
Okay.
So what do you hear in that? That's my a little bit more extended. I've gotten good at giving an elevator quick version of that. But hearing that I think some of it is review for you, is it not?
Just a little bit, but it makes sense. I mean, I think you can, like you said, it's for any relationship. I think I can look at any relationship and see some of that happening. Yeah. Yeah,
this happens in business partners is another little bit loud one. Right?
Yep.
Because you're dealing with each other a lot.
Yeah.
And it can get prickly. There's some differences of opinion when you're running a show together with somebody.
Yeah.
Not this show.
No.
The show as far as a business. We get along pretty well. He's nodding. He's
I don't
getting
know.
the microphone. Uh-oh. Here we go.
I am engulfment, 100%. And
Yeah.
I feel really weird with you guys talking about abandonment. And I would feel really out of place. So I'm just going to hide in my corner.
There you go. You can be a part of the group. It's okay. Because really that is a good point that the challenge here when you're really dealing with marital patterns and conflicts and yes, by the way, communication. The issue of communication, I love saying this when I'm working with couples. And if people's eyes roll when I say this.
All right, wait, I'll get my eyes ready.
Right?
Yep, I'm ready.
Right? Because they'll be in the middle of I just came to therapy and we need to deal with communication and our relationship is on edge, it's on whatever. And I'll be like, I don't think you have much of a communication problem. Well done. Love the dramatization. And I'll tell them, look, you've talked about marriage, you've talked about kids, complicated family dynamics, you've worked through lots of issues. Like, you can communicate about things, but when you get triggered, you can't talk about whether you're going to have Coke or Pepsi from the grocery store.
Right. Everything becomes conflict. Yeah.
You know? Because you're triggered. And you go to your space, and then when one goes in it, the other one probably is going to follow.
Well, and it's interesting, Neil, because I do think the abandonment people can become intimidating, trying to chase down the people who need their space. I know for my husband that I can, because I keep at it. Like, I want to talk this out. I want to figure this out. I don't want to wait.
Can't wait.
Well, and I think it's funny from being on this side, you guys don't understand what it's like to be engulfment. Like, even the comments, it's like, what do you mean wait and not talk about it right now? It's going to take forever, you know?
We say that in jest, I think.
No, I know, but that's just the reality of it.
Oh, you're not?
No.
Oh, I am.
Yes, I am. My wife's going to go home and kill me tonight.
Yeah, my wife's abandonment, and that's something that we've worked on with this relationship. She said she grew up, they'd rather yell, get it out of the open, and then move on. I'm like, I'll go retreat, think about what to say, and then I'll talk to you about a month and a half, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a very different thought processing that really can trigger, though, terrible feelings. But you're right. I know I'm a bit much. My when things are upset and I'm triggered and I'm emotional, I've really had to work hard to just pull myself back and just stop, learn how to shut up. There is this thing called listening, and, right? So the goal is to, get triggered and get your own internal self managed.
Yeah, look at yourself and try.
So that the other person never even knows it happened. But that's super hard. And by the way, part of this, too, we could go on and on for this because we have done shows on this. You're not going to be able to prevent getting in them. Mm-hmm. I will tell people in my office all the time, that's not going to be the goal. The goal is going to be, how can we manage it so you're literally not ready to kill each other when you get into this stuff? Mm-hmm. Because that's what that terrible pain that you get into. I mean, think about abandonment. You're going to be taken to an island, left for dead, and abandoned, right? Or think about engulfment.
Yeah.
You are going to be controlled. Your ability, your civil rights, you are stripped from all decision making. You do what I say because I control every aspect of your life.
Yep.
I mean, those are scary states, man.
Either one sucks.
It really does. It really does. So, like I said, episode 11 and 101, we can go on with that. I think we need to move on. But that's really an important thing to understand because it sets up everything.
Right.
Right in
Makes
from the
sense.
dating and meeting and greeting. And it's going to set up a lot of the things that we talk about, with the generational changes and things and dating patterns. I've actually been trying to think about dating patterns from an EFT perspective. I don't think anyone's really dealt with that.
Well, I'm sure we will get into this, but you're not really, I don't know. I think very few people are really authentic especially in the early dating stages.
Exactly.
So I don't know that would even come up.
It does.
Okay.
It does, but you're exactly right. I am Mr. Abandonment, but you can call me.
Cool, calm, collected.
Absolutely. Nothing bothers me.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
on the outside.
On the outside, because
Right.
I'm dating you, and then if I can try to do the engulfment, hey, you're awesome. I love talking to you. We have these lovely long conversations, and then you get married.
Right.
And people are like, they'll tell you that, right? Like,
Right.
What happens after we say I do? Where did this all go? Well, because of that. I no longer have to manage my internal
The
reality.
commitment is there, so you're free to be yourself.
Exactly.
You think.
Yeah. We don't no longer have to monitor ourselves
Right.
and manage it and, deal with our own internal struggle and because you've accepted me, right?
Right.
And you have, hopefully, but But the point is you really need to internal. I mean, it's amazing when I start getting into like couples counseling and say, wait a minute, you got to deal with your own inside you, not deal with her. You got to deal with you. Craig talked about that.
Yeah, stop sticking your elbow in the ribs next to you, right?
Right? Absolutely. Stick them in.
Right, that's right.
So, okay. We did a lot of stuff that with Casey that it was really cool. When I did look up the episode. Where did I do that?
Episode 155.
Thank you. Is that what it? Yes, there it is. Generational patterns, generational stereotypes. Are we entitled or enlightened? And Casey really talked about a lot of really cool things when it came to, what's going on in the different cohorts and how they see things differently. Mm-hmm. So in this next segment, I want to run down through those. Okay. Because when you look at this question, should we move in, before we're married? Why not? What could hurt? What are the dangers with that? I'm not sure we want to do that. When you start really having that discussion, I almost feel like you've got to have the generational context. Mm-hmm.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
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 Because things are changing.
Yeah.
But I want to be careful when I'm going too far with that because emotions don't change.
Right.
The human emotional experience. Mm-hmm. We've been having it since what you said earlier before the mics came on. What, since 0 AD
or whatever it is? I don't know. Well, hopefully before that.
I guess it was before that, wasn't it? When did man come onto the earth? Yeah, that's a whole other topic. 1000 AD, or whatever. Human beings have been feeling feelings, dealing with emotions, having their amygdala fire, and having, again, in 1000 AD, we didn't know it. Gottman wasn't around till 1974. Abandonment and engulfment was still active then.
Okay.
I believe.
That makes sense.
And we've just learned how to manage it throughout the eons. But generationally, there are some changes. So, just off the cuff, I feel like I've been talking too much.
Uh-oh.
But here we go. I'm sorry. You don't like getting caught cold. Everyone else does. They hate it too. But I am curious, Courtney, from your perspective, when you think about baby boomers, Gen Xers, millennials, the current kids and whatnot, can you imagine any changes or things that they thought about, things where your brain would go to with dating, being in a space of considering getting married and having kids, and should we move in or not? I mean, can you imagine any differences?
Oh, I can. Oh, absolutely. I can imagine a lot of differences. Just even values change through the generation. I think generations are also kind of identified by major events. They're identified by the culture of the time. They're identified by the movies that are out, the entertainment industry, and all those things change through the generations. So, yeah, absolutely.
So let's go through that. And I feel like the greatest generation, you look at the traditional approach. So when I say traditional marriage and traditional dating, what comes into your mind with that?
As far as generations?
No,
or
the way you're supposed to do it traditionally, right? What are some of the basics?
Well, you don't move in together until you're married.
And what else happens in dating and stuff?
Oh.
The girl asks the guy out?
Oh, I see. No,
right.
I guess the guy would ask the girl out. The wife's or the bride's family might pay for the wedding.
Oh, there's those.
Yeah, so there's a lot, of traditional things, I think.
Yeah, right. Guy's got to ask the dad to take her out.
Yeah. Right.
Those types of things. Yeah. So that's what's meant by the tradition. I feel like that was, the greatest generation and before probably that those were pretty long-standing things.
Yeah. They were considered normal, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good way to put it. So question is, did the baby boomers begin to change that?
I don't think so.
Right? Maybe a little bit.
Yeah.
Because they were all wild and, peace, love, and happiness and Vietnam and, all those things. But I feel like they may have nudged the needle just a touch.
Right. But
maybe
it probably
we-
takes longer than one generation to change something like that.
Good point.
Yeah.
Because I feel like you and I are in the same generation. When we were doing the same generation, I realized, or the generation show, I realized Neil and Casey weren't in the same generation.
Oh.
That's terrible.
So you're Gen X.
Yeah.
Me too.
I know.
Rock on.
It's the best generation.
I think so.
I feel like we began to change that. And I hadn't thought about it till I was talking to somebody about this, but if you think about it, just look at your Facebooks, right? I'm amazed at people that have toddlers and kids now. Do you see that in your circles? WT, I don't get it.
Yeah. Here's an interesting thought. So our generation was the first generation of latchkey kids.
True.
Do you know what I mean by that?
Yeah, I
So
do.
it was more of a, hey, you're on your own, make your own choices. You're at home alone. We're at work. Fend for yourself.
Yep.
So I think maybe that was the
pretty
start of
pivotal.
more independent thinking.
Yeah, and a lot of divorce
Yeah.
began happening. The divorce rate went to where it's been forever.
Yep.
Hold that thought.
Okay.
We'll come back. About 55, 60% divorce rate. I mean, it's tough. And we started to wait a little longer. I almost feel like 50-50, where, half of my Facebook people, I mean, their kids are grown and gone, kind of like mine,
Yeah.
19 and 16. They're
Yeah.
about to get to that point. Whereas some just like, I'm blown away. Like, you're 48, you're 50 years old and you've got a 10-year-old. Like, I couldn't imagine camping in Cub Scout camps and tents and stuff. Feeling like I do. Like, no,
Right.
I don't want to do that. But some have started to do that. Well, if you go back down there then to the millennials. Now, the millennials, 25 to 32-year-old are young millennials now is what I'm reading. And then 33 to 40 years old are older millennials. That's the way they differentiated it. There is a lot of difference from the traditional thing that we just highlighted.
Oh, yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
They're paying for their own weddings or because they're working. Yeah. They share the costs. They elope. They do destination weddings. They very active, I think.
Yeah, those are pretty interesting off the top of your head there. So we know this from different researching, right? We know that they wait longer to have kids. They wait longer to get married as well. We can say that they have, or actually I'll come back to that. We know that the older ones are buying houses in droves right now. They're driving a lot of the house purchases that we see across at least our country. We've talked about, social media and the fast pace of life. So there are some very real differences that I was thinking about. And let's go back to the one that I just skipped. Can we say that they have more of a fear-based insecurity about a long-term commitment such as marriage? Question. I'm not sure.
Yeah, if they do, where would that have come from?
Well, yeah, higher divorce rates, things that they've experienced with family. I think there are probably some things there. And again, all this gets to the boundaries, the decisions, marriage and family and kids, and do we move in or not? And how does dating happen, right? I feel like Generation X started to get a little bit later with that. I mean, I didn't get married till I was 27. She was older than me. But still, I think a lot of Gen Xers got together and married, 25, 24. And now that's just not happening at all.
I was 23.
Right? So the norms have changed a little bit, and I feel like back to that stuff that I want our audience to be thinking about, the emotion-focused therapy, abandonment, engulfment. How does that play into these things? Because I think that drives a lot of what we're anxious about and worried about. And it hasn't really been contended with. And because of life experiences, that this drives a major delay in that commitment. I was tooling around on the internet a little bit at lunch today, and there was some points about like marriage is the final move towards in the relationship. as opposed to like, one of the befores, right? Or in the middle, really, of developing relationship. Have kids, move in, then you get married. Like there's
Complete reversal, yeah.
Yeah, there's some things that are happening, with that. So I don't, by the way, millennials get a bad rap. Craig pointed out that, one of the millennials have done really well. One of the outcroppings of this, what happened to the divorce rate?
Down.
Way.
Yeah.
Where did I see that? I cited it. I'm just going to do it by memory because I can't read it. Oh, here it is. Question as well, will they value the family transitions, right? Well, I can't figure out my notes. I can't decipher it quickly enough. They highlighted 25% drop.
Oh, wow.
And that was bigger than I had previously
Yeah,
thought.
that's bigger than I thought, too.
That's what they were citing in some Pew Research thing or whatever. When we did this about a year ago, Craig brought it up, the divorce rate had gone down to about 45-50%. And that's a major drop.
Yeah.
But it's about 10-15% drop. Well, they said 25%.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. And they actually anticipate that sort of continuing. So I don't want the millennials to be crashed on.
No, not at all.
It's not like they're stupid young mucks making bad decisions and screwing up family values and all this kind of stuff. Because that ain't true. In fact, if you look at it from an engulfment perspective, EFT, right? Abandonment, engulfment. I look at abandonment, insecurity, skill sets.
Okay.
Engulfment, insecurity, skill sets. Because that's the way that you operate with attachments. But isn't it good to be thoughtful?
Right. Yeah.
Neil wants to think about his
to take a step
thoughts
back,
and-
to calm down, to...
Yes.
Yep.
Let's be planned. You want parent planning? Well, or a family planning? What is it? What am I trying for?
I think it's family planning. I don't know.
No, it's the company that everyone hates or something.
Oh,
Or a lot
Planned
of-
Parenthood?
Planned Parenthood, yes. You want Planned Parenthood? Not everyone hates Planned Parenthood, by the way. It's but you're going to sit there and be thoughtful about my partner way before I'm going to get married to them. It has a lot of strengths to it. The millennials are teaching us some things if we pay attention.
Right.
They're thoughtful about what they're doing, and they're not going to just rush into something. Like all
Just
of us.
because their parents did.
Right? Or just because I have to.
Right.
There's a little bit of the rebellion too. Like, why do we have to do it a traditional way? Why can't the woman present this to the guy and say, "Hey, I think we have a connection here"? I don't know that there's an answer to that.
Yeah.
So there's some redefining going on for better or worse, and in some ways, I would argue it absolutely can be beneficial. So where are we at before we jump to the next section? I don't know if there's anything else I want to say about generational stuff. Did we hit that pretty good?
I think so.
Oh, I was just going to make a mention of high school and the next generation underneath the millennials.
Okay.
And this is where I'm watching as a parent. And I can tell you, it definitely seems to be continuing.
Yeah.
My boys are just not dialed into that.
No.
They have no.
No interest, yeah.
Now, there is some dating interest that's actually brand new that's kind of starting. But I love to quote my son on this. He's like, "Dad, you have to talk to them and spend money on them." No. He's getting over that. I think he's getting over that. He's getting a little older and wants to launch his life and stuff.
Yeah.
But I am not looking for grandkids for a while. I do not see this in the stars. And I'm in no hurry, by the way. Can I make that point as well? But it's a very different philosophy. Do you remember when you were 19?
Yeah,
20?
absolutely.
Where's my partner?
Right.
I was freaking out about having a girlfriend in high school.
Yeah.
Like, something wrong with me. I don't have a girlfriend.
Right. Because that was the plan, right? I think there's more individualism now. I think people realize that there's time enough for that, and they want to build their life first. They want to do what they want to do. They want to make their own decisions and not be tied to anyone else.
Yeah. And again, these kids are teaching us something if we're listening.
Yep.
Because I'll tell you, in marital counseling, I have got to really drive in, especially for the engulfment side of it. What do you want?
Mm-hmm.
What is important to you? You know,
Mm-hmm.
what are you looking for? An engulfment perspective is, I just don't want you to engulf me. I don't want you to control me. So I'm going to get ahead of this. I'm going to make sure I'm doing it right and make sure you're happy so that you're not going to come at me and yell at me and all will be well, because then we don't have to talk and then we don't have to have problems, right? I mean, do you see how that can play out?
Right? Yep.
They put a lot of responsibility on their shoulders
Yeah.
from that perspective, because we don't want to get to that fear-based,
Right.
position. So the newer generations, younger folks are saying, wait a minute, even the engulfment people, like, I want to follow what's important to me and I want to engage in that. I want to be with my buddies.
Mm-hmm.
Why do I want to get all tied down into all this so quickly in life? Let's get established financially.
Mm-hmm.
You want to bring a kid into the world? Don't you need money for that?
Yes, the answer is yes, you do.
When I thought about money, when she was pregnant, and I'm
Oh no.
sitting exactly, I'm like, wait a minute, I will never forget that, Courtney. Standing in the grocery store, looking up at the counter, and literally like beginning to think, like, okay,
Actually looking at prices.
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Budgeting.
So let's go on to the next segment of the downfall of the family. Some
Ooh.
say. Have you heard these fears? And I'm going to call them fears. Maybe that tips my hand a little bit. What do you hear in the arguments, the statements, the concerns, the observations? I'm going to kind of land on fears that we are losing the institution of family and that family has been kind of devalued.
Well, I think for so long and for so many generations, the family was kind of the building block of all of our society. And so when the family dynamics are delayed and when divorce is sky high or when change is apparent, I think there's a concern that, okay, well, now what? We used to build everything around family, whether it be our neighborhoods near the schools or road systems to work and back home. And so I think when the family dynamics are changing, we're not sure what to do with that.
Yeah. I think there's some things that are changing, but I don't know that I agree or that I'm concerned that it's eroding, like people are kind of concerned about, the true dynamics of what family means, which is relationships.
Right.
Mom's always your mom.
Exactly.
Dad's always going to be your dad. I went through. Well, let me say what it is here. The claim: family decline theory suggests that families as an institution are changing in such a way that they are in a state of decline. It's argued that the overall functions of the family, to have children, to nurture those children into functioning adults, are being threatened by the changes in values and norms in society. And I think things are moving around, but again, if that's consistent, well, the divorce rate's coming down tremendously, actually, surprisingly and shockingly. It's almost maybe, in a way, a return to when people just weren't allowed to get divorced. Now they don't want to get divorced. And so they're really kind of setting things up because the value's still there. So in my meanderings with this, I'm kind of like, having kids has changed. Okay, how can they do this so late? Is something. Well, we just talked about that a little bit. But when you think of the family, how does this jive with kids moving back into their family when they struggle? Because we know millennials have done that. They go out, they kick into a problem, and then they recover, and they kind of go back out. That's valuing in an adult brain, by the way, 19, 22, 24 years old. They come back. That's incredibly like, thank you. You just saved me.
Is that valuing family from their perspective, or is it finding a safe place where they have been taken care of?
I think, I see your point. Go a little further with that, if you would.
So, I mean, I don't know how to go further. I think there's lots of reasons that adult children are coming back to the home, and I don't know what the reasons are.
Well, I saw this in my neighbor. He talked about it. He struggled and he had financial trouble. Car blew up. He graduated college and he really needed to get stable. Kind of came back. I think there's a little bit of a myth that this is the, hey, feed me, take care of me, give me a free trophy mentality. Because I don't think kids want to be at home.
No.
I think they're coming home because they know it is a safe place. I think you're right. And then they relaunch. I don't know about you, but I don't know that I really ever thought very much about a relaunching.
No.
No,
I was gone.
Yeah.
Like 5 states away.
Absolutely.
And I mean, I love my family. We had great relationships, and it was a definitely safe place.
Yeah.
But I was brought up, and maybe this is the difference. I was brought up, the one thing that I was taught more than anything else was how to be independent. And so, and I don't know if that was a generational thing, like from a boomer.
Yeah. Teaching.
But yeah, I never thought I would go back and relaunch. That was not even in my...
And I've never realized that until
Yeah.
that was real time for me. I mean, the idea of relaunching.
Like I might sleep at a friend's house if I need a place to crash. I'm not going to go home.
Right. But that could work. I would say Thanksgiving is still a prominent holiday. So is Christmas. The pressure still remains for kids to be with their parents. When you think of being newlywed or moving in with your partner and thinking about kids and all, your mom wants us to be there. Well, my mom wants us to be here, and my dad says we need to be, right?
That's like tradition. That's a traditional tension that everyone should experience.
Oh God, I hate that tension. Coming from a divorced family, man, that was terrible tension. And then it just like
I can see that. I guess mine is the in-law versus my parents.
Man. Yeah, I got 3 places to be now. Like, are you kidding me? This is terrible. So yeah, it is, but it is a normal developmental state. But the value is still there.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
To try to please both families now when you've got your girlfriend or your boyfriend and all of that. So, and I showed the millennials have the actual decrease. That's where I talked about it, where I couldn't find my notes. Fueling 24%. I'm corrected. 25, it's actually 24% decline. And we got show notes for all that stuff. And they also quoted the dangers, by the way, of that. The median age of first marriage in the U.S. is 27 for millennials. That's what, it looks like. So, again, is that good or bad that people are waiting and whatnot? Again, all of this relates to dating, having kids, getting married. Do you move in, and what are the complicating factors that this all goes into? I'm not going to try to convince anybody one way or the other. I just want us to really think about the way people are finding their way, whether it's caveman today or 30 years from now. Family is valued in however that's expressed, in whatever way that's celebrated. I don't think that's gone away nearly as much as people fear.
Okay.
I think there's a fear there because things are a little bit different. And I'm not getting into all the,
No, family is family.
the periphery. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of peripheral things I'm
Yeah.
sure people are listening to this thinking a little bit
Right.
about. I'm just talking about the average way that things go along with these decisions. So moving in or moving out is a part of those decisions. And I guess I'm speaking up for millennials. I'm speaking up for your crew, Neil, that they value families and that those are an important part of what they're considering. But there is also an individual component that is also valued. And I guess maybe those are, if you talk about a devaluing of family, maybe that's where some of it creates. But,
Yeah.
So, okay, now let's get to it. What about the whole moving in all of these things being considered and being thought about? How do we traverse these factors?
I would love to know your opinion.
Well, I would love to know your opinion. Before you answer,
Okay.
let's just touch on what just happened, right? See, when you said that, and we talked about this before the show, right? There's a lot of emotion there, isn't there?
There is.
There's a lot of tension and angst I think people feel about this.
Mm-hmm.
So can we be real for that for a moment? Like,
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with many factors. Upbringing, like what you learned is right and wrong, your any kind of spiritual component, any kind of rebellious personality. I think there's a lot that goes into that. And I think unfortunately, I think people judge
big word.
other people in this decision.
Right.
And so I think it's filled with emotion because I think a lot of people feel like they have to defend their decisions, regardless of which way it is.
There's a lot of shame and there's a lot of judgment in how this goes. And I think this is why, I was talking to somebody about this and they were like, we're talking about the generation. I forget the context of the whole conversation, but it was along the lines of, well, yeah, we just move in together and pretend like we're married and tell people we're together and tell people we're married. That's what we do.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, wow, really?
Mm-hmm.
That speaks to the level of hiddenness that people are feeling, which is definitely not good.
Right.
To perpetuate shame
Right.
and to perpetuate pain, really, when people are going about trying to make their decisions and trying to forge their companionships and stuff. We need to be able to talk about it, right?
Right. And I think maybe we start with the reasons why people want to move in before they get married and start there.
And that's where I go to my big lean.
There you go.
Okay, here's my big lean. Okay, I'm ill-advised. You know, that's where I'm leaning.
Yep.
Okay, and I'll be straightforward about that, and I tell people about that. But I tell people when we're dealing with this issue that there really are no right or wrong answers. I mean, there's no right or wrong. I've worked with people in relationships that are common law marriage. I work with people. I don't know how much time we'll have time to talk about second relationships because that's a factor. When you're divorced, there are different dynamics there. But I've talked with people that I just don't want to get remarried again. It's too much pain. I don't want to go through that again. You know, I talk with people in gay relationships and you know, managing those decisions in a tremendously cultural cauldron. How's that for a phrase?
Ooh, cultural cauldron.
Stuff just comes to me sometimes. It's tough. Go
So
ahead.
yeah, so a lot of people I think do this as an experiment.
Yeah.
Are we compatible?
Yeah.
Will this work? Now, my opinion, here's my big lean. I don't know that, again, I think I mentioned earlier the authenticity of a dating relationship and moving in until, I don't know, there's this lack of either a cultural commitment, an institutional commitment, a verbal commitment, whatever commitment. And I don't know that, because I always hear, here, let me preface this with, I always hear of people who move in together, it works great, they get married, and then it doesn't.
Yeah.
So what's the turning point?
Yeah, it was funny because I was talking about that just today, you know, in my office. And I have, some of this is theoretical. I have a little bit of a thinking out of the box with that because, boy, wait a minute, this is almost a fresh addition to that. Yeah, I think I combine those two. Okay, so remember I was saying earlier, when you're dating, what you're doing is you're managing your engulfment fear internally so that you're lovey-dovey and expressive and understand I need to be responsive. Otherwise, this person's just going to pass me away. Okay. Well, as well with abandonment, I need to play cool. I need to be chill. And
Give them space.
I need to give they need to be their own individual person and just yeah. So when you're dating, you're definitely doing that. And I am in real time developing the thought that are you quite possibly doing that before you get married? And I think the answer is yes.
Yeah, I think the answer is yes.
Absolutely yes.
Yeah. And regardless of what you think of marriage, whether it's a spiritual union, a civil union, a piece of paper,
Yeah.
however you think about it,
The judge
it's
said
still,
we were.
right, exactly. However you think of that relationship or that connection, there's a trigger, I think.
Yeah.
And that's when, okay, I feel safe enough now to be my real self and to not mask all these fears and emotions I have.
Yep.
Because this person has now said yes in
Yes.
whatever way they did, in whatever capacity.
They put their name on a
Right.
piece of paper.
Right.
And they signed it.
Right.
Listen, there is a very, very, very powerful reality with the rituals and traditions that we have. Now, I'm not talking about take the garter off and throw it behind your back and all the things we do with flowers and pictures and cakes
Sand.
sand. What's the sand
Seeds
thing?
and balloons,
Oh,
whatever
yes,
it
yes,
is.
absolutely. All these things, but those are marital traditions that are part of, if it is nothing more than a circuit court judge signing
Right.
that paper.
It's a ceremony.
It is a ceremony, and those ceremonies that we do are for a reason.
Right.
They're emotionally engaging in whatever way you do them. Elope, go to Japan, get married there, or if you're in Japan, come to the States. We got a great place in Charlotte. That's cool.
Right.
It's a cinch, and the knot is tied, as they say. Now my ball and chain is here.
Oh my goodness.
I know, it's terrible, isn't it?
That's terrible.
But people use those expressions, and I like expressions because they really get to the point at what people are feeling. Let me go a little further with that as I'm on a roll with my ball and chain. Now they're going to make me talk about everything that we have to talk about for the rest of our lives. Oh my God, how terrible.
Yeah, then you get into the nitty gritty of daily life. It's no longer
Engulfment.
planning for the fun stuff or hanging out. It's, oh, wait, 2 years from now, do we
It's
want a
real.
house? We have to save money. I don't agree with you on money, on budgeting.
Yeah.
So all those little things come out.
My ball and chain
Stop saying
says that. Well, I got to do it from the other perspective, Courtney.
Oh, okay.
So my ball and chain, from an abandonment perspective, says, well, they're not going to show up. I've got, no conversations now, and I've been abandoned, and what am I going to do? But I can't just leave. There is a switch that happens.
There is.
So we went on a different direction than what I thought, because what I was originally, and let me get back to that now. You nailed it. Did you read letter B?
There's
Or
a
did
letter
you just
B?
No, there's a letter B. I wrote on the show notes, right? Letter B, right? The big belief that I have that I will move in with my partner to experiment.
Oh, we'll
Dot,
see.
dot, dot.
There you go.
To see if I can actually live with them. That's the deal. Okay, but listen up. You're experimenting and learning somebody's tendencies in many ways, that has nothing to do with what you need to know.
Right. I would agree.
It gives you false information.
Right.
That's my biggest concern, guys and gals out there, to move in early. You're not learning what you really need to learn.
And that sets up false expectations,
Big point.
which is, I know early in our marriage was the big problem, was false expectations of what marriage meant, what it is, what happens within it. And so I think when you're moving in while you're dating, all these expectations are set. Oh, this is how it's going to be like. It's going to be fun, and we're going to go out and party all the time, and we're
Yeah.
we're going to clean up after ourselves because we want to make a good impression, because we want to marry this person.
The toilet paper doesn't have to get dealt with the right way.
They're going to put it whatever way the other person wants.
Yeah.
But
You do.
yeah.
You start learning about toothpaste. You start
Right.
learning about dishes. You
And-
start learning
right.
about things that just,
and then those
cleaning
expectations are
tendencies.
set, and then they're broken, and then disappointment sets in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think part of what, okay, so let's use this. If we had time, I was going to talk about these things, but we still may. I actually got lazy because my show prep was down, so I just popped a Google search and took the article. I quoted the article, so it's fine, but I agreed with what they said. Look, what are healthy relationship characteristics? Reciprocal respect and love, giving attention to each other's daily lives, treating each other with kindness, spontaneous warmth and affection, having fun together, enjoying time apart. How about that? Important for us abandonment people. Right? A method for conflict resolution. Well, I just want to put a pause there, because the method for conflict resolution is you figure out your abandonment stuff inside and quell that fear. I'll quell my abandonment fears inside me, then we'll deal with conflict. It's a whole nother ballgame there. Sorry. But it is. Feeling the freedom to be yourself and being friends above all else. I mean, those are things that you assess. Those are things that you're becoming aware of. And that's what dating is about. It's figuring these healthy characteristics out. Now, I know some might be upset with me, but the concern that I have is that when you are in a moving in circumstance, some of these things get lost in the regular days and age of living, as you say. And then when you get married, it's like, now everything's on the hook.
Right.
It's different.
It is different. There's more responsibility. Before you had an out. A lot of people who are married, myself included, they want to be able to take divorce off the table. So that means they have to figure stuff out.
Yeah.
But when you're dating, you don't.
You really don't.
You're not committed to that person in the same way.
You can't be.
You can't be.
You just can't, because the ritual is not there, and the emotional triggering of engulfment or abandonment does not happen as intently. That's the big point.
Makes sense.
You cannot have a closer relationship besides God, if you have religion in your practice of life, because God is like in you and you're whatever. Oh my God, that's creepy, but it's true and whatever. Okay. He knows everything that's in my head. Courtney, that freaks me out. Like, wow. Your spouse.
Right.
Is your wife or your husband is the closest relationship that you can have.
Right.
When you're living together, you're going to have some of that. You're absolutely going to be tickling into it. But it's dramatically different when you have a little bit more skin in the game that you have with that piece of paper from the courthouse. So that triggering when you're dating, when you're thinking about should we have kids, when you're thinking about should we move in, when you're thinking about, listen, I'll give a little bit of a tip. I kind of feel like when you're dating, you have no clue what the other person is going to be like until you have a fight. And I ain't talking about a little bickering. I'm talking about a battle. I want somebody to have a dating battle.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. It's important.
Because it's scary.
It is scary.
And people will avoid that to the nth degree. I know I still have a hard time. Man, when people aren't happy with me, I'm not doing well. I'm not doing well.
You want
to
to fix it.
Yeah, I don't like it. Because it triggers my abandonment. Like, dude, we got to figure this out. Neil's nickering over in the corner. Neil, we have to talk about it, now. But you have to manage that. And so I've had to learn that. I mean, my kids are never happy with me, it seems. And I've had to really be able to tolerate that. And that's hard. And my wife, God, there's so many things about me she can't stand. Okay, well, I can work on some of them, I guess, but
I want to add one more little thing about why I don't recommend living together while you're dating, is because, and I use the example of when my children were in elementary school and were graduating, if you want to call it that, to middle school. I
don't want to call it that.
I know, I don't either. That's ridiculous. When they were transitioning into middle school, a lot of parents on the last day of elementary school sent a limo to the school to pick up their kids. Oh, wow. Now, if you did that, good for you. Here's my concern, and the reason I don't do that for my children is because then when it is a more, an advanced event, like a prom.
High school graduation.
Right, like a high school graduation or prom or your wedding, then that limo doesn't mean the same thing. You've been there and you've done that. So I feel like with dating and living together, you've been there and done that, and there's nothing left to advance to enjoy, to celebrate, to try for the first time with your spouse and say, hey, we're in this together. We're going to, this is going to be great, or we're going to make it work, whatever. I just feel like we celebrate and offer a lot of rewards early on in life that take away from the rewards later in life and the celebrations later in life.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
What made me think of as you were talking there, Courtney, the contentment. this is not exactly a marriage show, but man, marriage is all about giving.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a lot about receiving. I'm learning that more and more as I get older.
Yeah.
You know, in trying to be humble and figure these things out, because there's a lot of figuring out that needs to be had. There's a whole lot of internal work that needs to be done. When you have a fight with your spouse, common law husband or marriage partner, or even dating partner, because this same stuff starts happening in teenage years. I've grown to be distasteful of the word crush.
Oh, yeah.
I don't like that word.
I don't either.
Do you not either?
No, I don't like that word either.
Because these feelings are all there, and
Yeah.
you have to manage them. So marriage is about managing your own feelings inside and giving to your partner. How about that for a phrase?
There you go.
Not bad, because there's a lot of challenge in trying to be content with the circumstance and enjoy the things that you have. Because if another thought there is, like, if that's the limo is where we arrive in the marriage and the
What's left?
The sex on the honeymoon, and then that's the end.
Right.
That's depressing, because you're going to be married for a while after there, and you have to learn how to emotionally manage these things moving forward for the next 20, 30, 50, 65 years. 65 would be a lot of years.
That would be awesome.
It can happen. Well, I don't know if I want to be alive that long.
That's what my son says. He's like, I think I want to live till about 70. I'm like,
Yeah.
you'll want more than that.
Yeah, I definitely want more than that. Definitely want more than that, but I don't know about like 115 or 20 or something like that. So, okay. Let's go back to, again, what are healthy characteristics and how do we find that in dating? And before we wrap up with that segment a little bit, I want to comment as well. It's very important to me. You have a common law marriage, you move in, you're dating, and you have a child, teenage pregnancy. These are all things that I don't want this show or to feel like we're perpetrating any kind of shame with my lean,
Right.
or we ended up having the same lean. It's okay.
Yeah.
We're all where we're at. We're all trying to do what's healthy. And when you're figuring out, you're particularly in a second year marriage, you're living together. Listen, I'm not down in that. I'm not gonna trounce on that space. That's your space between you and your partner. Gay relationship aside as well. This is what we really want to do, is manage our emotion.
Right.
What we really want to do is increase the healthy aspects in ourselves so that we can share the wonderful experience that marriage can be. It's not a ball and chain.
No, but it is a mystery, but it is not a ball and chain.
It can be mysterious, and it's not a knot.
Right. No,
It's awesome.
it is. I love it.
When it works well and you get into a good space, that golden space between two people, an emotionally safe environment where you can really coalesce and relate and live life together. It's awesome.
It is.
It's elusive. It is mysterious.
Sometimes it's a roller coaster ride,
It
but
is.
it's worth it.
You get into that space, and then you're going to get out of that space. You fall in love and fall out of love. Hate them, despise them, think they're the best thing ever. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Because emotion is driving that. Abandonment, terrifying fear. Engulfment, terrifying fear is driving this thing. So whatever state you're in, that's what we want to manage so that you can continue to progress your relationship as you see fit. That's important to me too.
Yeah.
As you see fit and appropriate for you. So these things while dating, can you recognize while dating that you have reciprocal respect and love? Can you recognize that you give attention to each other in each other's daily lives? Can you recognize when you're dating that you're treating each other with kindness? Can you recognize when you're dating that you have fun? I hope so.
I would hope so.
Can you imagine dating and not having fun?
That might be a red flag.
Let's just stop the show right now, right? Yeah. If you're not having fun dating this person, call it quits.
Do not move in.
Do not move in. Yes. Run. Get away. Enjoying time apart is an important thing.
Yeah.
Can you be apart?
Mm-hmm.
Can you evaluate that while you're dating?
Mm-hmm.
Can you have a method? You've got to have a bit of a battle when you're dating,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and work that through
Mm-hmm.
in a loving way. Can you, while dating, figure out, you know, being free? Can you figure out how I can really be true to myself? Yes, I'm a guy who's abandonment.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I'm a girl who's in engulfment. And I want you to leave me alone, and I don't want to be all romantic.
Mm-hmm.
You know, fine. Can you be your true, authentic self?
Right.
It's tough to do anyway. But,
Yeah.
And then ultimately, can you be friends?
Mm-hmm. Or is it just all in the infatuation stage and the lovey-dovey and physical touch stage?
Can't help resist a little bit of factoid that's important. You said infatuation stage.
Mm-hmm.
So this is something that happens. I call it the biology of love. And it's scientific. You know what oxytocin is?
Yes.
Love that stuff.
Oh, goodness. No, that is not a recommendation.
I wish we could just
Stop.
mainline oxytocin, because oxytocin is a chemical in your body that perpetuates the feeling of attraction and affection and this type of thing. It's a hormonal reality.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So at 6 months after you're with somebody,
Mm-hmm.
guess what happens to this good stuff?
Choo. Is it really just 6 months?
Between 6 months and 2 years, it's found
okay.
that it's essentially
Mm-hmm.
right? And if you think of a lot of more traditional dating things, I mean, you know,
Yeah.
you date for a few years maybe and whatnot, but, you know, when you meet a girl and you're 25, you know, you're going to hook up, you're going to date, you're right. And so that begins to dissipate tremendously. So, you know what one client years ago called this when we were talking about it? God's little gift. This is God's little gift to help you along the way in the beginning so that when it gets real,
You can hopefully remember
right.
what that was like.
Yes. So, I don't know. How do we sum us up here? I kind of really wanted to maybe say, I think I already did. Like I said, you know, whatever status you find yourself in, we really want to be in a healthy relationship, and that's the main goal.
Absolutely. Yep.
And we covered that a little bit on what to look for and
Yeah.
how to manage that.
I think so.
Yeah. Okay. So, get married, everybody.
Or not. Do you? How about that?
Have a great week. We're going to wrap up there, I think. Take care and enjoy the fall weather, at least in the states that's starting to develop and around the world. Take care.